Sharks don't stalk the seas, they rule them. These apex predators move from sunlit shallows to midnight depths with ancient precision, answering only to instinct. They're not evil, but the results are often fatal when humans drift wounded or unaware into their realm. One breach, one bite, and the illusion of control shatters. In this video, we dive into 6 chilling encounters, from a helicopter crash off South Africa to a bull shark attacking mid-air, that prove the ocean answers to no one. False Bay, located along the southern coast of South Africa near Cape Town, has long been recognized as one of the world's most active great white shark territories. In May 2025, this stretch of water between the Cape Peninsula and the Hottentots Holland Mountains would become the site of a harrowing survival story that would capture international attention. The bay, known for its seal colonies at Seal Island and frequent shark sightings, had been a popular destination for marine tourism and research for decades. However, its reputation as a feeding ground for apex predators made it one of the most dangerous waters in the world for unexpected encounters. The helicopter, a chartered Bell 407 operated by Coastal Airways, had departed from Cape Town International Airport on the morning of May 24, 2025, carrying 6 passengers on what was supposed to be a routine scenic flight over the Cape Peninsula. The passengers included Thaddeus Pemberton, a wildlife photographer from London; Ximena Valdez, a marine conservation journalist from Mexico; Quentin Blackwood, a retired engineer from Australia; Serafina Kowalski, a marine biology student from Poland; Dmitry Volkov, a Russian oligarch's son; and Cordelia Ashworth, a British documentary filmmaker. Captain Reginald Thornbury, a veteran pilot with over 15 years of experience flying coastal routes, had reported perfect weather conditions during the pre-flight check. The helicopter was scheduled to follow the scenic route along the coast, providing passengers with aerial views of the notorious Seal Island before returning to Cape Town. However, approximately 40 minutes into the flight, while hovering over False Bay at an altitude of 800 feet, the aircraft experienced a catastrophic mechanical failure. Witnesses on fishing boats in the area later reported hearing a loud grinding noise, followed by the distinctive sound of rotor blades hitting the fuselage. The helicopter began spinning uncontrollably before plummeting toward the choppy waters below. Captain Thornbury initiated emergency protocols, but the aircraft hit the water with tremendous force, breaking apart on impact. The fuselage immediately began taking on water in the rough seas. All 6 passengers and the pilot initially survived the crash, managing to evacuate the sinking aircraft and cling to floating debris. The water temperature was approximately 14 degrees Celsius, and the survivors found themselves scattered across a debris field roughly 50 meters wide. Pemberton had sustained a dislocated shoulder during the impact, while Valdez suffered a deep gash on her forehead from flying debris. The others had various cuts and bruises but were conscious and could stay afloat. Captain Thornbury had sent a distress signal before the crash, and rescue teams were dispatched from Simonstown Naval Base. However, the rescue operation faced delays due to rough sea conditions and the remote location of the crash site. The survivors would spend nearly 4 hours in the water before help arrived. The first fin appeared during the 3rd hour of their ordeal. Despite her exhaustion and hypothermia, Serafina Kowalski was the first to spot the distinctive triangular dorsal fin cutting through the water approximately 30 meters away. She warned the others, but her voice was barely audible over the sound of the waves and wind. The great white shark, estimated to be between 4 and 5 meters long, had likely been attracted to the crash site by the water's vibrations and possible fuel spillage. The predator began circling the debris field, its movements becoming increasingly aggressive as it investigated the unusual disturbance in its territory. Dmitry Volkov, who had been clinging to a piece of the helicopter's door, was the first to be attacked. The shark approached from below and behind, its powerful jaws clamping down on his right leg just above the ankle. Volkov screamed as the shark's serrated teeth tore through his wetsuit and into his flesh, causing deep lacerations and fracturing his fibula. The shark released him after several seconds, likely confused by the taste of neoprene and human flesh. The attack on Volkov triggered a feeding frenzy response in the shark. Within minutes, it had targeted Quentin Blackwood, who was floating approximately 20 meters away. The shark's second attack was more violent, with the predator launching partially out of the water before clamping down on Blackwood's left arm. The engineer's radius and ulna were both fractured, and he lost consciousness briefly from the pain and shock. Cordelia Ashworth became the third victim when the shark approached her from the side, its jaws closing around her right thigh. The bite caused severe muscle damage and multiple deep puncture wounds, though the shark again released her quickly. The attack left her unable to swim effectively, and she was only kept afloat by her life jacket. Despite his dislocated shoulder, Pemberton attempted to create distance between himself and the shark by swimming toward a larger piece of debris. However, the movement attracted the predator's attention, and he was bitten on his left calf. The shark's teeth punctured his gastrocnemius muscle and caused significant blood loss. Valdez and Kowalski were attacked almost simultaneously during the shark's final assault. Valdez sustained bites to her right arm and shoulder, while Kowalski suffered injuries to both legs. The marine biology student later reported feeling the shark's sandpaper-like skin scraping against her during the attack. The shark's behavior was consistent with investigative biting rather than predatory feeding. Marine biologists who later studied the incident noted that the relatively quick release of each victim suggested the shark was confused by the unusual situation and was attempting to identify the strange objects in its territory. Rescue helicopters finally arrived at the scene as the shark disappeared into the deeper waters of the bay. All 6 survivors, together with the pilot, were airlifted to a hospital in Cape Town, where they received emergency medical treatment. Despite their severe injuries, all passengers survived the ordeal. The incident prompted immediate investigations into helicopter safety protocols and emergency response procedures for maritime crashes in shark-infested waters. The attack remains one of the most documented cases of multiple shark bite victims from a single incident in South African waters. The waters off Queensland's coast near Cairns, Australia, have served as a natural laboratory for marine researchers studying the behavior of tiger sharks for over 3 decades. In 2019, these tropical waters, part of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, became the site of an unprecedented incident that would forever change safety protocols for cage diving operations. The region's warm currents and abundant marine life have made it a premier destination for scientific research and ecotourism. Tiger sharks are one of the most sought-after species for underwater observation. Tiger sharks, known scientifically as Galiocerdo cuvier, are among the ocean's most formidable predators, capable of growing up to 5 meters long and weighing over 600 kilograms. The Queensland coast provided ideal hunting grounds for these apex predators, with its coral reefs offering shelter for prey species and its deeper channels serving as migration routes. The area had been extensively studied since the 1980s, with researchers documenting feeding patterns, mating behaviors, and territorial movements of the local tiger shark population. Jake Meridian, a marine biologist from the Institute of Marine Sciences in Australia, had been conducting research on tiger shark feeding behavior for his doctoral thesis. At 28 years old, Jake had already spent over 200 hours in underwater observation cages, studying shark behavior in various locations across the Pacific. His research focused on how environmental factors influenced hunting patterns, and he had developed a reputation for his methodical approach to data collection and his calm demeanor underwater. On the morning of September 15, 2019, Jake joined a research expedition aboard the vessel Southern Cross, operated by Reef Encounters Marine Research. The team planned to conduct behavioral observations of tiger sharks using a specially designed reinforced steel cage tested in similar conditions across Australian waters. The cage, manufactured by Deep Blue Marine Equipment, was constructed from 25mm steel bars and had been certified to withstand encounters with sharks up to 6 meters in length. The research site was located approximately 15 nautical miles northeast of Cairns, in waters roughly 40 meters deep. The location had been chosen based on previous tracking data that indicated regular tiger shark activity in the area. The team lowered the cage to a depth of 12 meters, with Jake inside wearing full scuba equipment and carrying underwater cameras and measurement devices. The initial phase of the dive proceeded according to protocol. Jake observed two smaller tiger sharks, approximately 2.5 meters long, as they investigated the bait containers suspended near the cage. He documented their approach patterns and feeding responses, noting their cautious behavior around the unfamiliar structure. The sharks maintained a respectful distance from the cage, occasionally bumping the bars with their snouts before swimming away. After approximately 45 minutes underwater, a significantly larger tiger shark appeared from the deeper waters beyond the reef. Jake estimated the shark to be at least 4.5 meters long, with distinctive dark stripes across its gray body and a massive head indicating it was likely a mature female. The shark's behavior immediately differed from that of the smaller individuals Jake had observed. Rather than showing caution, the large female displayed territorial aggression toward the cage. The shark began circling the cage at close range, its movements becoming increasingly erratic as it investigated the bait containers. Jake noticed that the shark's body language suggested heightened agitation, with its pectoral fins held downward and its swimming pattern becoming more rigid. He began preparing to signal the surface team for an early ascent when the shark suddenly accelerated toward the cage. The impact was unlike anything Jake had experienced in his years of cage diving. The tiger shark struck the steel bars with tremendous force, causing the structure to rock violently. The initial collision bent two vertical bars, creating an approximately 30-centimeter wide gap. Jake immediately moved to the opposite side of the cage, but the shark was far from finished with its assault. Enraged by the cage's resistance, the female tiger shark launched a second attack within seconds. This time she approached from a different angle, using her powerful tail to generate maximum force. The impact caused the weakened bars to separate further, creating an opening large enough for the shark to thrust her massive head inside the cage. Jake found himself face to face with the shark's gaping mouth, rows of serrated teeth visible just meters away. He pressed himself against the back of the cage as the shark pushed deeper into the opening, her powerful body thrashing as she attempted to reach him. The shark's head and shoulders were now inside the cage, and Jake could feel the water displacement from her powerful movements. In a desperate attempt to escape the shark's reach, Jake tried to move toward the cage's upper section. However, as he lifted his left arm, the shark's jaws snapped closed around his forearm with crushing force. Jake felt the immediate shock of the bite as the shark's teeth penetrated his wetsuit and tore into his flesh. The pain was excruciating, and he could feel the bones in his arm crack under the pressure. The shark held Jake's arm for approximately 8 seconds before releasing him and backing out of the damaged cage. Jake immediately signaled frantically to the surface team while applying pressure to his wounded arm. Blood was flowing freely from multiple puncture wounds, and he could see that his radius bone had been fractured. The surface team quickly initiated emergency procedures, hauling the damaged cage to the surface within minutes. Jake was immediately transferred to the boat's medical station, where the crew administered first aid and radioed for emergency medical evacuation. A rescue helicopter arrived within 30 minutes and transported Jake to a hospital in Cairns, where surgeons performed emergency surgery to repair the damaged tissue and set his fractured bones. Jake's recovery took several months, but he eventually returned to marine research. The incident led to comprehensive reviews of cage diving safety protocols and the development of stronger cage designs. The tiger shark's unprecedented behavior was attributed to possible territorial protection of a nearby feeding area, highlighting the unpredictable nature of apex predator encounters. The secluded cove near Hermanus, South Africa, had remained largely undiscovered by mainstream tourism until 2018, when residents began sharing its pristine beauty through social media. Located approximately 15 kilometers southeast of the town center, the small bay was accessible only through a narrow hiking trail wound through fynbos vegetation and granite outcroppings. The area, known locally as Clip By, had been a favorite swimming spot for generations of local families who appreciated its crystal-clear waters and protection from the strong Atlantic swells that battered the main coastline. The cove's geological formation provided natural protection from prevailing winds, creating an almost lagoon-like environment that appeared deceptively safe. Rocky formations on either side of the 200-meter-wide bay channeled deeper ocean currents through an underwater passage connected directly to the main shipping lanes. While invisible from the surface, this underwater topography created an ideal hunting corridor for great white sharks, moving between their feeding areas around Seal Island and the kelp forests further east. Mark Stevens, a 34-year-old software engineer from Cape Town, had discovered Clip-By during a hiking expedition 6 months earlier. The divorced father of one had been searching for quiet locations, where he could spend quality time with his 8-year-old son, Timothy, away from the crowds and commercialization of the popular beaches. Mark had grown up swimming in the ocean and considered himself an experienced swimmer, having completed several open-water swimming events, including the Robben Island crossing. On the morning of March 12, 2018, Mark and Timothy made the 90-minute drive from Cape Town to Hermanus, planning to spend the day exploring tide pools and swimming in the protected cove. The weather conditions were ideal, with light offshore winds, clear skies, and water temperature around 18 degrees Celsius. Mark had packed a picnic lunch, snorkeling gear, and safety equipment, including a first aid kit and emergency beacon, demonstrating his usual cautious approach to outdoor activities. The pair arrived at the trailhead shortly after 9 a.m. and completed the 45-minute hike to the cove without incident. Timothy, an energetic child who had inherited his father's love of the ocean, was excited about swimming in what Mark had described as their secret beach. The cove appeared exactly as Mark had remembered it: pristine white sand, clear turquoise water, and complete solitude. Mark conducted his usual safety assessment of the swimming area, checking for rip currents, rocky hazards, and water clarity. The conditions appeared perfect, with excellent visibility extending to at least 20 meters and gentle waves barely reaching knee height. He established a safe swimming boundary approximately 30 meters from shore, marking it with a floating buoy he had brought. Father and son spent the first hour exploring the rocky tide pools at the cove's edges. Timothy was delighted to discover small crabs, sea anemones, and colorful fish trapped in the natural aquariums. Mark photographed his son's discoveries, capturing moments that would later become precious memories. The morning's activities proceeded exactly as Mark had planned, creating the perfect father-son bonding experience he had hoped for. Around 11 a.m., as the sun reached its peak intensity, Mark suggested they cool off with a swim. Timothy, still learning to swim confidently in open water, remained in the shallow areas near shore, content to splash and play in water barely reaching his waist. Feeling confident in the safe conditions, Mark decided to swim toward the buoy he had placed earlier. Mark was approximately 40 meters from shore, well within his comfort zone, when he paused to wave at Timothy and check on his son's activities. The water was so clear that he could see the sandy bottom beneath him, and he floated on his back for a moment, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the peaceful surroundings. From Timothy's perspective on the beach, his father appeared to be having a relaxing swim in perfect conditions. The attack came without warning. Timothy later told rescue workers that his father had been floating calmly one moment and suddenly disappeared beneath the surface in an explosion of white water and foam. The child initially thought his father was playing a game, perhaps diving down to look at something on the bottom, but the thrashing water and the appearance of a large, dark shape convinced him that something was wrong. Marine biologists estimate that the great white shark, between 4.5 and 5 meters in length, approached Mark directly below, likely using the sun's position to mask its approach. The attack was characteristic of great white hunting behavior in the region, with the shark breaching partially out of the water as it struck its target. Mark disappeared beneath the surface immediately, and the churning water made it impossible for Timothy to see what was happening below. Timothy began screaming for his father and ran along the water's edge, hoping to spot him swimming back to shore. After several minutes of frantic calling, the child activated the emergency beacon his father had taught him to use, though he was uncertain whether it was working properly. The boy remained on the beach for over 2 hours, alternately calling for his father and scanning the water for any sign of his return. The rescue vessels arrived at the cove shortly after 2 p.m., alerted by the emergency beacon signal. The South African Rescue Institute dispatched boats from Hermanus while emergency medical services accessed the cove via the hiking trail. Rescue divers found Mark's body in approximately 15 meters of water, roughly 100 meters from where the attack had occurred. The post-mortem examination revealed that Mark had sustained massive trauma consistent with a great white shark attack, with fatal injuries to his torso and legs. Marine biologists noted that the attack pattern suggested predatory behavior rather than territorial aggression, indicating that the shark had likely mistaken Mark for a seal or other natural prey. Timothy was treated for shock and psychological trauma before being reunited with his mother. The incident prompted local authorities to install warning signs at the trailhead and conduct regular shark spotting patrols during peak swimming season. The tragedy highlighted the hidden dangers that can lurk beneath even the most pristine and peaceful-appearing coastal waters. The coastal waters off Clearwater Beach, Florida, had long been recognized as prime territory for bull shark activity, particularly during summer when water temperatures peaked and bait fish populations swelled near the shoreline. In 2017, these shallow Gulf waters became the site of an unprecedented incident that would fundamentally change United States Coast Guard training protocols for water rescue operations. The area's unique geography, with its gradual sandy bottom and numerous tidal channels, provided ideal hunting grounds for bull sharks, which were known to venture into water as shallow as 3 feet while pursuing prey. Bull sharks, scientifically known as Carcharhinus lucus, are represented by one of the most dangerous shark species due to their aggressive nature and ability to tolerate saltwater and freshwater environments. The Florida Gulf Coast served as a critical habitat for these apex predators, with the warm, nutrient-rich waters supporting large populations year-round. Marine biologists had documented bull sharks reaching lengths of up to 3.5 meters in these waters, with some specimens weighing over 300 kilograms. Petty Officer First Class Donovan Hutchinson had served with the United States Coast Guard for 8 years, specializing in search and rescue operations throughout the Gulf Coast region. At 31 years old, Hutchinson was considered one of the most experienced rescue swimmers at Air Station Clearwater, having participated in over 150 successful rescue missions. His expertise in helicopter hoist operations and water rescue techniques had earned him recognition as a training instructor for recruits entering the Coast Guard's demanding rescue swimmer program. On the afternoon of July 8, 2017, Hutchinson participated in a routine training exercise designed to simulate emergency rescue scenarios in shallow coastal waters. Operation Blue Waters was conducted monthly to maintain crew readiness and test equipment functionality under realistic conditions. The training area, located approximately 2 nautical miles southwest of Clearwater Beach, featured water depths ranging from 8 to 15 feet, making it ideal for practicing the precise hoist operations required in actual emergencies. The exercise involved a HH-60 Jayhawk helicopter from Air Station Clearwater, piloted by Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell, with a crew consisting of Flight Mechanic Chief Petty Officer Marcus Thompson and co-pilot Lieutenant Jake Reynolds. The scenario called for Hutchinson to be lowered from the hovering aircraft via rescue basket, simulate the retrieval of a distressed swimmer using a training dummy, and then be hoisted back aboard the helicopter while carrying the simulated victim. Weather conditions for the training exercise were optimal: clear skies, light winds from the southwest at 8 knots, and sea surface temperatures registering 28 degrees Celsius. Visibility was excellent, with the crew observing the sandy bottom through the emerald-colored water. The helicopter maintained a standard rescue hover 40 feet above the surface, positioning itself according to established protocols for shallow water operations. Hutchinson completed the initial descent and water entry, demonstrating proper technique as he detached from the rescue basket and began the simulated victim recovery process. He maneuvered the 80-kilogram training dummy into the basket and signaled the helicopter crew to begin the hoist operation. The exercise had proceeded flawlessly up to this point, with all crew members performing their assigned duties precisely. As the hoist began lifting Hutchinson and the training dummy toward the helicopter, he followed standard procedure, gripping the rescue basket's supporting cables rather than the basket itself. This technique allowed him to control the simulated victim while being lifted through the water column. The helicopter maintained its hover as the hoist mechanism gradually raised the load toward the aircraft's open door. When Hutchinson reached approximately 8 feet above the water surface, still well within the range where spray from the helicopter's rotor wash created surface turbulence, the bull shark struck. The predator, estimated to be approximately 2.8 meters long and weighing nearly 200 kilograms, had been attracted to the training area by the unusual disturbance created by the helicopter's presence and the repeated entry and exit of equipment from the water. The shark's attack was swift and precise, with the animal launching partially out of the water to reach Hutchinson's dangling legs. Its powerful jaws clamped down on his right leg just above the ankle, the razor-sharp teeth immediately penetrating his dry suit and tearing into the flesh beneath. Hutchinson felt the crushing pressure of the bite and the grinding sensation as the shark's teeth scraped against the bones in his lower leg. The attack lasted approximately 12 seconds, during which the shark's weight and thrashing movements created tremendous strain on both Hutchinson and the hoist mechanism. The rescue swimmer experienced excruciating pain as the shark's bite fractured his fibula and caused severe soft tissue damage to his calf muscle. Blood immediately began flowing from the multiple puncture wounds, creating a visible red cloud in the water below. Flight mechanic Thompson, monitoring the hoist operation from the helicopter's door, immediately recognized the emergency and rapidly retrieved the hoist cable. The increased speed of the ascent caused the bull shark to release its grip and splash back into the water, where it briefly circled the area before disappearing into the deeper channel nearby. Hutchinson was pulled into the helicopter within 30 seconds of the attack, where Thompson and Reynolds immediately began administering first aid. The crew applied pressure bandages to control the bleeding while establishing radio contact with emergency medical services. Hutchinson remained conscious throughout the incident, providing crucial information about his condition and the nature of his injuries. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell immediately diverted the aircraft to a medical center in St. Petersburg, the closest trauma facility equipped to handle severe shark bite injuries. The flight took 18 minutes, during which the crew maintained constant communication with hospital emergency staff and continued monitoring Hutchinson's vital signs. His injuries included multiple deep puncture wounds, a fractured fibula, severe muscle damage, and significant blood loss. Emergency room physicians at the medical center performed immediate surgery to clean and repair the damaged tissue, set the fractured bone, and address potential infection from marine bacteria. Over the following week, Hutchinson underwent 3 separate surgical procedures to reconstruct the damaged muscle tissue and ensure proper healing of the bone fractures. The incident prompted immediate reviews of Coast Guard training protocols, particularly regarding rescue operations in known shark habitats. New guidelines required marine life spotting procedures before conducting water rescue training, and equipment modifications included the development of shark deterrent devices for use during rescue operations. Hutchinson eventually returned to active duty after 6 months of rehabilitation, though he was reassigned to shore-based operations at his request. The waters surrounding Kaikoura, on New Zealand's South Island, have served as a premier marine wildlife destination since the 1980s, when the town transformed from a struggling fishing community into an internationally recognized whale-watching hub. In 2016, these nutrient-rich waters off the Canterbury coast became the site of an extraordinary encounter that would challenge scientists' understanding of orca behavior and highlight the unpredictable nature of human-wildlife interactions. The Kaikoura Canyon, a massive underwater trench that begins just 500 meters from shore and plunges to depths exceeding 1,000 meters, creates unique oceanic conditions that support abundant marine life, including sperm whales, dolphins, and the region's resident orca population. Orcas, known scientifically as Orchinus orca, are the ocean's apex predators, capable of reaching lengths of up to 9 meters and weighing as much as 6 tons. The Kaikoura region hosted a resident pod of approximately 25 orcas that marine biologists had studied for over 2 decades. These intelligent cetaceans exhibited complex social behaviors and sophisticated hunting techniques, primarily targeting stingrays and other bottom-dwelling species in the shallow coastal waters. Both researchers and tourists typically welcomed their presence in the area, as orcas were generally considered non-threatening to humans. Barnaby Whitmore, a 45-year-old marine insurance adjuster from Christchurch, had planned the sailing expedition to celebrate his recent promotion and an opportunity to share his passion for sailing with his family. Whitmore had been sailing for over 20 years, with extensive experience in New Zealand's challenging coastal waters. He was joined by his wife Cordelia, their 16-year-old daughter Anastasia, and his brother-in-law Reginald Pemberton, a marine engineer from Wellington. The family had chartered a 38-foot Beneteau Oceanus, named Southern Cross, for a week-long sailing holiday along the South Island's east coast. On the morning of November 14, 2016, the Whitmore family departed from Kaikoura Marina to spend the day whale watching and enjoying the region's spectacular marine environment. Weather conditions were ideal for sailing, with light winds from the southwest, calm seas, and excellent visibility. The forecast predicted settled conditions throughout the day, making it perfect for wildlife observation and recreational sailing. The Southern Cross was equipped with standard safety equipment, including life jackets, emergency flares, an emergency position indicating radio beacon, and an inflatable life raft. Whitmore conducted a thorough safety briefing with his family before departure, reviewing emergency procedures and ensuring everyone understood their roles in case of unexpected situations. The boat's diesel engine was in excellent condition, and all navigation equipment functioned normally. Approximately 3 nautical miles northeast of Kaikoura Peninsula, the family encountered their first marine wildlife of the day. A pod of dusky dolphins approached the sailboat, delighting the crew with their playful antics and acrobatic displays. Anastasia captured numerous photographs of the dolphins as they rode the boat's bow wave, creating memories that would later become precious reminders of the day's events. After nearly an hour observing the dolphins, Whitmore continued sailing toward the deeper waters where sperm whales were frequently sighted. The engine ran low throttle to maintain steerage while the family scanned the horizon for whale spouts. The boat's depth sounder indicated they were moving over the edge of the Kaikoura Canyon, where the seafloor dropped rapidly from 50 meters to over 300 meters depth. At approximately 1:30 p.m., Cordelia spotted an adult male orca's distinctive tall dorsal fin approximately 200 meters off the starboard bow. The massive cetacean, later estimated to be nearly 8 meters in length, was swimming slowly parallel to their course. Whitmore reduced engine speed and adjusted course to maintain a respectful distance while allowing his family to observe the magnificent creature. The orca's initial behavior appeared completely normal, with the whale surfacing regularly to breathe and showing no signs of agitation or distress. Marine wildlife guidelines recommended maintaining a distance of at least 150 meters from orcas, and Whitmore was careful to comply with these regulations. The family watched in amazement as the whale's distinctive black and white coloration became visible through the clear water. After several minutes of parallel swimming, the orca's behavior changed. The whale started swimming increasingly tight circles around the sailboat, occasionally slapping its massive tail flukes against the water surface. Whitmore recognized these actions as signs of agitation and began preparing to increase distance from the whale. However, the orca's behavior escalated dramatically before he could take evasive action. The whale suddenly accelerated toward the sailboat, approaching from the port quarter at considerable speed. Whitmore warned his family to hold on as the 6-ton whale collided with the boat's hull just aft of the mast. The impact was tremendous, causing the entire vessel to shudder and heel dramatically to starboard. The force of the collision cracked the fiberglass hull near the waterline and damaged the rudder assembly. Before the crew could assess the damage or react to the first impact, the orca surfaced alongside the boat and prepared for a second attack. This time, the whale approached from directly astern, using its powerful tail to propel itself toward the sailboat's transom. The second collision was even more violent than the first, with the orca's massive head striking the boat's stern section with enough force to crack the rudder post and damage the steering mechanism. The second strike's impact threw Whitmore and Anastasia over the boat's port side into the 14°C water. Whitmore hit the water first, landing heavily on his right side and immediately feeling sharp pain in his rib cage. Anastasia entered the water seconds later, her impact cushioned somewhat by her father's presence, but still causing her to submerge in the frigid ocean completely. Cordelia and Reginald, who had managed to maintain their grip on the boat's safety lines, immediately began rescue procedures. Reginald threw life rings toward the two swimmers, while Cordelia started the engine and maneuvered the damaged boat toward their position. The orca remained in the immediate area, swimming in large circles around the sailboat, but showing no further aggressive behavior toward the people in the water. Despite the pain in his ribs, Whitmore kept himself and Anastasia afloat until Reginald could pull them back aboard the boat. The rescue operation took approximately 8 minutes, during which the orca continued its circling behavior but maintained a distance of at least 50 meters from the ship. Marine biologists later theorized that the whale's behavior may have been triggered by the boat's engine vibrations or propeller noise, which could have been misinterpreted as territorial intrusion. Once back aboard, Whitmore was found to have sustained 3 fractured ribs and severe bruising along his right side. Anastasia suffered from mild hypothermia and shock, but had no serious physical injuries. The boat's damage assessment revealed a cracked hull, a damaged rudder, and a compromised steering system that made navigation hazardous. The family activated their emergency beacon and was rescued by the Kaikoura Coast Guard within 2 hours. The incident prompted extensive research into orca behavior patterns and revised guidelines for marine wildlife encounters in New Zealand waters. The remote coastline near Bruny Island, Tasmania, had remained largely untouched by commercial development well into 2014, preserving its rugged beauty and pristine marine environment. Adventure Bay, a crescent-shaped inlet protected by towering headlands, had served as a popular swimming and camping destination for generations of Tasmanian families who appreciated its isolation and natural beauty. The waters surrounding Bruny Island were known to harbor significant populations of Australian fur seals, creating ideal hunting conditions for great white sharks. Marine biologists had documented great white sharks reaching lengths of over 5 meters in Tasmanian waters, though encounters with humans remained extremely rare due to the region's isolation. David Ellis, a 29-year-old wilderness guide from Hobart, had organized the camping expedition to celebrate his upcoming marriage to his longtime girlfriend, Rebecca. Ellis, who operated a small adventure tourism business, was known for his extensive knowledge of Tasmania's hidden beaches and meticulous attention to safety planning. The group consisted of 4 close friends, Ellis and Rebecca, Maximilian Thornbury, a photographer from Melbourne, and Serafina Kowalski, a marine biology graduate student. The camping trip had been planned for months, with Ellis selecting Adventure Bay specifically for its combination of scenic beauty and recreational opportunities. The group intended to spend 3 days exploring the area's hiking trails, photographing wildlife, and enjoying the pristine beach environment. On the evening of February 18, 2014, the group established their campsite on the beach, approximately 100 meters from the waterline. The evening began with a traditional campfire dinner featuring fresh seafood purchased from local fishermen. As darkness settled over the bay, the group was treated to one of the most spectacular natural displays they had ever witnessed. A full moon rising over the calm ocean, creating a silver pathway across the water. The combination of clear skies, calm conditions, and brilliant moonlight created an almost magical atmosphere. Thornbury suggested that the exceptional lighting conditions would be perfect for night photography, while Kowalski expressed interest in observing nocturnal marine life. The unusually warm February evening, with air temperatures above 22 degrees Celsius well after sunset, made the prospect of a moonlight swim particularly appealing. Despite his cautious nature and extensive experience with Tasmanian coastal conditions, Ellis was influenced by the seemingly perfect conditions and his friend's enthusiasm. The water appeared completely calm, with virtually no wave action and exceptional visibility due to the bright moonlight. He carefully assessed swimming conditions before agreeing to the group's proposal for a brief swim. The 4 friends entered the water at approximately 10:30 p.m., with temperatures around 18 degrees Celsius. They remained close to shore initially, staying within 20 meters of the waterline and maintaining visual contact with their campfire on the beach. The moonlight provided sufficient illumination to see each other and monitor the swimming conditions. After swimming for approximately 15 minutes, the group began to feel more confident and gradually ventured into slightly deeper water. Ellis, the strongest swimmer among the group, moved approximately 40 meters from shore, while his friends remained closer to the beach. The water depth in his position was roughly 4 meters. Kowalski later reported that she had been floating on her back, admiring the moon's reflection, when she heard Ellis call out. Initially, she assumed he was simply enjoying the experience. However, when she turned toward his position, she observed an unusual disturbance in the water around him. The great white shark, estimated to have been between 4.5 and 5 meters in length, had approached Ellis from below and behind, using the moon's position to mask its approach. The attack was swift and devastating, with the shark's powerful jaws clamping down on Ellis's right thigh and hip area. The force of the bite immediately caused massive trauma to major blood vessels and bone structures. Ellis disappeared beneath the surface within seconds, pulled down by the shark's tremendous weight and power. The 3 remaining swimmers heard his brief scream before he vanished into the dark water, leaving only churning foam and the gradually spreading darkness of blood in the moonlit sea. The 3 survivors reached shore within minutes and immediately activated emergency beacons while attempting to spot Ellis in the water. Rebecca used her mobile phone to contact emergency services, though the remote location meant rescue resources would require considerable time to reach the scene. Rescue vessels from the Tasmania Police Water Operations Unit arrived at Adventure Bay at approximately 1:15 a.m., followed by volunteer marine rescue teams. Search and rescue operations continued throughout the night and the following day, utilizing boats, helicopters, and specialized diving teams. Ellis's body was recovered the following afternoon in approximately 15 meters of water, roughly 200 meters from where the attack had occurred. The post-mortem examination confirmed that Ellis had sustained injuries consistent with a great white shark attack, with fatal trauma to his upper leg and hip region. Marine biologists noted that the attack pattern suggested predatory behavior, possibly triggered by Ellis's movements being mistaken for those of a seal. The incident marked the first recorded fatal shark attack in Tasmanian waters during nighttime hours, leading to extensive research into nocturnal shark behavior patterns. The tragedy deeply impacted the local community and prompted comprehensive reviews of safety guidelines for nighttime swimming in remote coastal areas. Adventure Bay now features permanent warning signs about the risks of nocturnal marine activities, serving as a lasting reminder of that moonlit February night when the ocean claimed one of Tasmania's most experienced wilderness guides.